In the Hollyhock House, Frank Lloyd Wright used primarily natural materials such as wood, concrete, and glass to build a house. Wright believed in using natural materials instead of making one material look like something else, such as trying to make tile look like marble, which is a belief that is shown throughout the house. Concrete is the primary material of the outside of the house, which, coupled with its geometric form, gives it a strong monumental aspect. Once one enters the inside of the house, more wooden elements start to appear, warming up the area. By using a material as rough as concrete, the outside of the building looks very imposing. However, the wood and the glass balance the concrete out by providing a much more welcoming look to the inside of the home. The glass windows let in light and open up the space within, whilst the dark wood contrasts greatly with the sandy concrete. By choosing these materials, Wright was able to create a dialogue of opposites between light and dark, and opaque and transparent. The Hollyhock House is incredibly rectilinear, with very few curves to be found. Because of this, the house looks more rigid and set in. There's a sort of stillness about the Hollyhock House. It's not a particularly tall building, which makes it blend in with the surrounding landscape, and yet its geometric form makes a stark contrast with the gentle curve of the hill it sits on. Its low profile is a familiar element of Wright's work, as he had established his prairie house style earlier on in his career. This style, so particular to Wright, grounds the house not only to the land, but also to the time it was constructed. In the floor plan of the house, which was shown earlier in the presentation, one can see that it is an open plan centered around a courtyard, but also surrounded by various lodges, terraces, and pools, all of which further blend the house into the landscape. This house is not a simple box with equally boxed in rooms. It's a house that celebrates its landscape by making it an integral part of the house. Though many scholars have noted several architectural influences, including Japanese, Mayan, and Egyptian, Wright denied that he had any of the strong architectural influences on the house. In fact, he described the Hollyhock House as embodying California romanza, a style that would focus on celebrating and interpreting South California's natural landscape. However, Wright also admitted that Mayan architecture was something he'd been fascinated with as a child. So it isn't outlandish to suggest that he included some of that architecture into one of his designs. The pictures on this slide, as well as the photo on the previous slide, show a striking similarity between the form of the Hollyhock House and of Mayan architecture. Both of the temples and the front facade of Hollyhock are rectangular in shape, and the entrances are broken up by columns or something similar to columns. These columns would then support a mansard-like roof, an element which also appears in Wright's design. It's also important to note that all three of these buildings are elevated, either because they sit on a hill or because they sit on a man-made pyramid. Either way, they all overlook the areas that surround them and establish a level of dominance over them. One of the most notable elements of the Hollyhock House is the ornamentation, after which the house is named. Wright took a hollyhock flower, which was his client Aline Barnstole's favorite flower, and simplified it into symmetrical geometric shapes. He then took the now stylized flower and used it as a sort of motif throughout the house, which created a sense of repetition and unity. The Mayans carved similar, albeit much more complicated, geometric shapes into the facades of their temples, which were a magnificent display of symmetry. Both of the ornaments achieve a great sense of horizontality, as they have elements that are repeated across a horizontal band, thus guiding the viewer's eyes from left to right, or vice versa. In his design, Wright also included freestanding monuments that share several similarities with the steles in Mayan temples. Both are taller than they are wide, and have been made to look like more than just a rectangular block. In Wright's house, these small monuments are situated near entrances, just as the stele end pictured on the right here is near the entrance to a temple. One obvious difference is that the Mayan monument is incredibly complex and fairly unique, while Wright's design is much more simple and still follows the hollyhock motif that appears in the rest of the house. An interesting similarity is that both of these monuments have a face. Wright's is on the top of the monument, whilst in the Mayan stele it is closer to the middle, a detail that most definitely indicates a strong Mayan influence on the a Hollyhock House design.